In the history of the world, there are a few inventions that changed human life from its foundations, and perhaps one of the greatest and most basic of these inventions is the wheel, an invention older than our understanding, whose discovery set the world in motion and accelerated the pace of civilization. But have you ever wondered what would have happened if the wheel had never been invented? If this marvel had remained absent from the world, what kind of picture would our life, society, and history present? Today we will reflect on this question and imagine a world where the wheel did not exist. What you're about to see in this video is What If History. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to do it now, and don't forget to like the video. The earliest use of the wheel dates back to around 5000 BC in the region of Mesopotamia. Historians consider this invention a milestone in human progress, which opened the doors not only to transportation but also to industry, trade, and social development. Without the wheel, our society today would have been entirely different. Imagine if the wheel had not come into existence, what would our early tribal life have looked like? Perhaps humans would still rely on their physical strength to lift, pull, and carry their everyday items. Travel would have been extremely slow, and reaching far-off places would have been a major challenge and a difficult task. Perhaps even today humans would not be able to cover long distances without horses or camels. If the wheel did not exist, how would great civilizations like ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, or the Indus Valley have flourished? Those grand structures, where massive stones were brought from thousands of miles away, would their construction have been possible? How would these stones have been transported if carts made with the help of wheels did not exist? Perhaps humans would still carry large stones with their hands or move them through wooden boat-shaped frames, which would be extremely difficult and time-consuming. The scene of trade would also be entirely different. In various parts of the world, distance would matter more, and geographical barriers would have greater importance. Apart from camels or horses, no other means would exist, and even these animals would be greatly limited and easily weakened in harsh conditions. Perhaps the scope of trade would remain restricted to nearby areas, because of which the merging of cultures and languages would be much less. As a result, the world would be far more isolated and divided compared to today. If the wheel had not existed, the Industrial Revolution would never have taken place. When the Industrial Revolution began in England in the 18th century, the use of wheels in machines and factories was extremely important. The gears of machines, factory equipment, and the wheels of railways gave industry a new dimension. Without the wheel, the speed of industrial progress would have been very slow. Perhaps even today the world would depend on hand-working artisans. Think also about how wars and military campaigns would have looked without the wheel. Cavalry armies would be weaker, the transportation of cannons and military equipment would be extremely difficult. Wars would be longer and bloodier because transportation resources would be limited. Perhaps the world would still be divided into smaller tribal and political systems. Even the small aspects of daily life would be different. Today we travel in cars, bikes, and vehicles, but perhaps even now people would still travel on foot or with the help of animals. Urban development would also be limited because the difficulty of transporting goods would make the construction of large cities more difficult. On the other hand, if the wheel had not existed, humans might have discovered even more unique ways to understand the natural world and solve their problems. It is possible that they would have focused more on boats, ropes, and other inventions for transportation. Or perhaps they would have discovered alternative energy-powered machines like water and wind-powered devices much earlier. It is also possible that the social structure of humans would be different because large-scale interaction and exchange would be less frequent. The world would not be a global village like today, but rather a collection of separate tribes and nations with greater distances and differences between them. Perhaps the development of knowledge, science, and the arts would follow a different path. Thinking about all this brings us closer to a surprising truth: how much a single small invention, the wheel, changed the world. Today's progress, conveniences, and almost every aspect of our daily life are touched by this invention. But was all this impossible without the wheel? Would human curiosity, creativity, and innovation have remained so limited? Or should we think that even without the wheel, humans might have invented other technologies to shape their world in ways we cannot imagine today? When we imagine a world without the wheel, we must understand how slow and limited human progress would have been. But human curiosity and creative abilities are such that they can break through any barrier. If the wheel had not existed, perhaps humans would have invented even more unusual methods for transportation, such as giant water-powered ships or systems of ropes and bridges spread across tall mountains to move goods. In such a world, sea travel might have been more important because land travel would be difficult and slow. This would mean that different civilizations of the world would remain isolated for a long time, and cultural exchange would be limited. the ancient civilizations of the Middle East, Europe, Africa, and Asia might not be as interconnected as they are today. For example, Greek philosophical thought or the architectural masterpieces of Egypt might have remained far more distant. That a continent like America, whose discovery changed the world, might still have been an unknown land. Without the wheel, the lives of the Native American tribes would also have been different. Their trade limited and their interaction with one another minimal. Their wars and cultural evolution would be affected by the lack of land transportation. The construction of their large cities, which would be difficult without the help of wheels, might have been smaller and more scattered. If we look at the existence of the wheel from a scientific perspective, it is not just a rotating circle but a beautiful example of the principles of physics. The laws of force, balance, and motion were not only understood through the wheel, but these very principles later paved the way for modern engineering. If the wheel had not existed, humans might not have discovered these fundamental principles of motion so quickly, and the pace of scientific progress would have been much slower. The wheel is a testament to human intelligence that taught mankind how to harness the forces of nature. When humans first saw that a round piece of wood made movement easier, it did not just change travel but also transformed the scope of human thought. The wheel was a declaration to humanity that the secrets of nature could be unlocked, and this realization later led to countless scientific discoveries. If we look at today's world, the impact of the wheel is not limited to transportation alone. From medical machines that record the heartbeat to spinning turbines that generate electricity, the basic structure of the wheel is present everywhere. If this invention had not happened, medical science, electric power, and space technology might not have reached the level they have today. It is also interesting that the wheel has helped humanity not only on Earth but also in space. The turbines used in rocket engines, the spinning gyroscopes inside satellites, and the mechanical arms attached to space stations all trace their origins to the simple wheel. If the wheel had not been invented, humanity's dream of setting foot on the moon might have been delayed by centuries. Socially too, the wheel eliminated distances between humans. It not only brought cities closer but also connected ideas, philosophies, languages, and cultures with one another. If the wheel had not existed, major religions, philosophies, and ideas might not have traveled from one region to another. It is possible that much of wisdom and knowledge would have remained confined to small local areas. If the Industrial Revolution had not occurred, the existence of large cities in today's world would also be questionable. The development of machinery in factories, which became possible because of the wheel, would either be slow or incomplete. Just as trains and cars made the world smaller, without them we would still be restricted to local areas, and global economy, trade, and the exchange of information would also be limited. There would also be major changes in the military field. The transportation of supplies, cannons, and weapons in war would be affected. The importance of cavalry would decrease, because apart from horses or camels, other means of transportation would be few. Military strength would be weaker, because of which the balance of political power would also be different. Even the small aspects of everyday human life would bring major changes. The availability of goods in markets, distribution of food, and the prices of everyday items all would be affected. People would rely more on local products, and global exchange would be limited. As a result, the world would be far more different and restricted compared to today. But one question still remains in our minds. Would human creative abilities remain so limited that progress would stop without the wheel? Or would humans find some other way to improve life? Throughout history, we find countless instances where hardships led humans to new inventions. Therefore, it is possible that the world would progress differently, perhaps more sustainable and environment-friendly, but still advanced. Even the idea of America would emerge in a different form. Perhaps the tribal cultures there would develop more deeply and complexly, but interaction among them would remain limited. If colonial powers had not been able to conquer the American continent, the politics and economy of the world would also be very different. Perhaps the global landscape of today would be entirely changed. This story teaches us that a small invention like the wheel is not only a means of technological progress, but is embedded in the foundation of human civilization. If it had not existed, imagining how different our world, our history, and our lives would be is astonishing. So friends, today we saw how different the world would be if the wheel had not existed. But we also learned that human curiosity, creativity, and perseverance are extraordinary. We should value our world and reflect on how all this became possible.